Okay, welcome to Freedom Hustles podcast. This is episode 24. This is the podcast dedicated to all the best hassle-free hustles to give you more time and money freedom. So I'm Andy Lehman, owner of Freedom Skills Academy, and I am with
John Banks over at sideincomeman.com.
How are you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, so I'm just setting it up. I got a new mic and webcam. I felt like I was letting the side down a bit. I looked through some of our old episodes and I was using the integrated camera on the laptop, which was pretty bad. So
yeah, but to be fair, yours sounded all right. The only reason I've got this one is so I can hide behind it because I've got a face for you.
Well, no, I must admit I've got to get used to this thing. But anyway, yeah, I'm good. Other than that, good. You all right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm feeling a little bit, just a bit. I think I've got a bit of a cold. But apart from that, it's nothing. It hasn't grown into anything major, so that's all right. So, what's the topic of today's discussion then, John?
So the topic of tonight, or today's, is about split testing, testing generally. So anyone, if you've got any kind of online business at all, it doesn't have to be websites. Anything, even if you sell online, anything I'd say from even like eBay, so anything that requires any kind of form of content in any way, the importance of testing. So what do we mean by that?
This is content that he is basically selling, into it.
Basically,
that's going to try and convert.
That's why I said, something like an eBay listing, for example. You've heard the story about the guy. I can't remember the actual artifact, but wasn't it? I think you told me actually. He was buying, or someone bought up.
Yeah.
What were they, like old, nothing stuff, weren't they, from charity shops and that? And they gave them to like this copywriter to sell, and he crafted up this incredible story, a backstory about the product, and was obviously able to sell it for a significantly.
I think he spent something like a few £100s on these little secondhand stuff that he got from a thrift store, gave them to a writer who wrote a backstory. And I think he generated about $8,000 out of these things because of what he wrote. So, which going into the idea of testing is, if you're doing an eBay listing, you can just stick an eBay listing up and leave it as it is. But he tested this by expanding on it and giving giving a story to them, and he crushed it as far as money was concerned. It was I can't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but it was he made a lot of money back just by testing stories on an eBay listing.
So that's kind of one big, that's one example, but perhaps more kind of online based. We talk about stuff like keywords. That's an important word for people. Anyone that's running, certainly if you're running like Amazon listings, or if you're selling stuff, if you're selling Kindle books or anything like that, then definitely keywords is a big part of it. You can often find, I've actually found this recently, this exact thing. I've got a load of stuff on Amazon Kindle and that listed, which we talked about before, and I listed some books the other day, just some low content like journals, and I didn't get any sales for it must have been about a month, and I thought perhaps that was a dud. And I don't normally mind that, because of the nature of that business model is you kind of just keep churning them out, and when you hit the good ones, they're the ones you concentrate on. But I went in the other day and I thought, wonder if I could just change a few things over. So I went in and changed 2 of the keywords to something that I thought was a bit more of a kind of searchable term. And then I had 3 sales in a week. Now, is that coincidence? Don't know yet. But that's the point of it. The point of it is, I didn't just leave it. I went in there, tweaked something, and then there was 3 sales in a week. From before that, there was nothing in a month. That kind of tells me that book may have turned a corner. And that could have been just because of one line, just one line. So we'll see. But going back to what we used to do, that's huge. The importance of testing. Going back to the kind of ad arbitrage game, running loads of Facebook ads, spending quite a lot of money on Facebook ads. We wouldn't have got anywhere had we have just run the first ad and then gone, oh, this don't work, and then quit and find the town.
The other thing as well, we tested the content as well, didn't we? We tried to create different content to match up with certain people, which would work better on Facebook. And headlines is a big thing. If you're writing a headline, whether it's a sales letter, whether it's a Facebook post, whether it's an advert, copywriters generally, I've read this before, some copywriters will write several hundred headlines before they pick one. In fact, this woman here, new book I've got from Caroline Anglade Cole, she's a copywriter, and I just saw a Facebook post from her the other day, was basically echoing everything that we're saying here. She said that you've got to test different headlines, because there's been several times she's written headlines and thought, that's the one. But they bombed. But once you swapped them, the sales letters started to really sort of rocket. And basically what she's trying to say, and what most people will tell you, is that the actual market will dictate what's going to be a success, even if you think it's going to be really, really good. So copywriters will tend to write, like I say, several hundred headlines. They'll strip them down to several that they've got, and then they'll test them. And the great thing about today, with sales letters being online compared to the old days with the direct response mailing, is that if you want to change a headline, you can go into your computer and you can change it, or you can duplicate the sales page, change it, and you can be done within seconds. In the old days, they had to change, all the printing. They had to print another 1,000, 2,000 off, send them in the post. Now you can just do them. There's no excuse, really, to not test.
Yeah. I think we can be guilty as well, like you said. I think we can be guilty of being sort of set in our ways, can't we, a bit? I know that I love the way that sounds. So I'm going to keep it like that. And then you don't get any sales, or the numbers are down, or your traffic's down, or your conversions are down. And then you sort of think, well, I don't know, and you might be a bit reluctant to change it because you think your idea is the best idea. Is it, like you say, the market dictates, and you aren't capable of knowing what, let's say your audience is 100,000. You're not capable of 100,000 people's incentives and what they are, what is driving them to get the click. I mean, it's the same with email, isn't it? Email marketing is exactly the same. You've got, I mean, you're a bit more clued up on this game than me, but I mean, your whole incentive is to basically get them to open the email. No, forget about the content. You've gone too far if you're thinking at that stage.
The headline basically is to catch people's attention and get them to read the next line, and then the next line is supposed to take them to the next line. So it's got to be gripping. And as you said there about, you can write a headline or a title and think, it's the dog's knob, as we would say here in England. It's I've done that with email, and I've written an email and I've got this headline. I thought, I think that's quite curiosity driven. I think people are like that. And I stuck it in the autoresponder, got it set up, and then I go look at the statistics later on and I find out it's actually got lower open rates than some of the others. And then your ego sort of goes, that's kind of like, I actually think that's a good one. What's wrong with these people? But it obviously doesn't appeal. So,
like you say, the beauty of that is you can literally resend that same email a week later to the same audience with a different headline, can't you?
Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that email out. I'm going to stick it back in the autoresponder in, say, like a month's time, change the headline and see what happens.
Just compare,
which is another great good thing to bring up as well. A lot of people might be thinking, I don't want to send the same email twice. But you've got to remember, with an email list, if your open rate is if the open rate of the email is around 30%, that means not everybody's reading your email and not everybody is opening up the emails at the same time. So the time you send it, it could be a different group of people who open it up. It may appeal to different people, or the fact is some of them might have forgotten. You might get a few people who may remember, but just send the same email again. Just change the headline. If you want to change a bit of text, fair enough. But don't worry about not sending the same email again. Just don't do it the following day or the following week.
And exactly, yeah. I mean, who cares? I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? It really isn't worth worrying about. Yeah, I mean, I've got a book actually, which is real nerd geek book. For anyone that's interested in this stuff, this is called 100. You probably can't see it on the thing, but it's called 108 proven split test winners. And in here, I mean, this is literally just examples of stuff. This company ran. They spent millions of dollars on these tests. They had the budget to do it, and it was amazing. Like they were seeing stuff like 30% higher conversions on like the color of the button. I'm literally a different shade of green. Would get a higher click through rate, and stuff like this. And they even went through the whole model, even prices. I mean, people don't even believe this. I mean, you think, well, should I sell my course at, I don't know, $290, or should I, hammer it out and just give it away for like $27? And there is massive comparisons on that, and it might be that obviously you may sell less of the 297 one, but actually you'll make more money.
I used to work for a company that used to do split testing on products, the same product. They'd sell it at 3 different prices, send a mailing out to different people. And they often used to do it beforehand to determine which price to sell it at. They would get like what they call like a bliss point. So they'd figure out, there'd be probably more people will buy it at £97 than there will the £697. But at the £297 was a good enough number where they'd be able to do the least amount of work, get the most amount of profit out of it. So they used to split test all the time, and it's something that is often recommended. It feels weird trying to sell the same product to 3 different people for 3 different prices, but it's like someone said, if you get an email from an irate customer who says, I bought this and I found out you're selling it at £100 cheaper, just say, sorry, we were just testing the price, we'll give you the refund back. Just because he says it's very rare that it happens. But you brought up some great points there about colours. I was reading not so long back about a guy who says you need to test colours, whether it's on like your sub headlines or whatever it is on your website. But he says don't go barging in. If you read something where it says orange is this year's colour, he says test it. Don't just swap all your buttons or your headlines to that colour and then just leave it. Because I know a copywriter did that once, and he saw, I don't know what colour it was. I think, let's say it was orange, but I think he'd read someone was saying, this year we're having lots of success with orange. So he went and changed all his stuff to orange, and his sales dropped. Yeah. He looked and he thought, well, that's not very good. So he actually swapped it back to the previous colour, and again, his sales went up. So just because it's working for somebody else doesn't mean it's working for you. That's why you need to test things. You don't take everything at what people say. Yeah. What we're saying now, if you're listening, if you want to go and test, that's the whole purpose. Test what everything's, because it works for someone, it doesn't always work for somebody else.
I mean, there's another one which was like the free trial, versus maybe charging. That's another thing that's worth testing out. Like you might get. Because we and I, we talk. I don't know if we have mentioned this before, but you can build an email list in loads of different ways. Like if you've got some money as well, you can go out and just buy a whole ton of leads. Almost immediately from day one. And you will get a load of people sign up. Now, if you give away a free product, let's say it's relevant in that niche, you go out, you buy a ton of solo ads, you get 100 email list subscribers, probably on single opt-in. That's another thing, single opt-in, double opt-in. But you probably get, let's say you get 100 subscribers straight away that downloaded your free product. What would be better, do you think? I mean, I don't know the answer to this because we haven't explored it enough. But if you get, like 100 free subscribers straight away, and then you drip them through the funnel, don't forget a majority of them aren't even going to open up the second email. They've already gone. or a very kind of small, low entry. A lot of companies now are doing the sort of $1, aren't they? $1 for 2 weeks, or first month free, but you've got to put your card details in, and then your next month's going to get billed. So I think that's the kind of push away the tire kickers a bit, isn't it?
It is. You basically, you're building a list of buyers. When someone buys, there's a psychology behind it. They've got their credit card out. They've made a decision. They've made a purchase. They've gone that one step further than, like, say, tire kicker. I mean, you can give something away for free. There is a way of giving away something for free, but as soon as they've got that one freebie, there's a paid follow-up, a cheap paid follow-up. So you can give away a free book and then give like a $10 book or $5 book afterwards. People who buy, then you build an email list of sort of freebie kickers and buyers then, and you can, so I suppose you can segregate the list. But there's a lot of people at the moment doing the paid books. I mean, there's a reason why they're doing that as well. Not only are they building a list of buyers, these are people who've sat there and thought long and hard and thought, yeah, I am interested. I am willing to spend $5 on that, because they made that commitment. But also, it kind of offshoots a lot of the cost in Facebook.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you'll have the follow-ups to pay off, because I mean, they may break even, they may lose some, but basically, at least when you get someone buying your book at $4.99 or $5, that you've covered some of your ad spend. So, effectively, you're creating free traffic out of paid traffic, especially if you've got like another follow-up after it. But yeah, that is something that's been tested, and a lot of people are preferring that. But again, I suppose it depends on what niche you're using.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know, like I say, I'm sure there is massive studies on that. But another area I wanted to just tap on quickly, which was kind of like the more visual stuff. We've talked a lot about headlines today. We've talked a lot about tweaking keywords, and this is the kind of sort of stuff that you can do quite quickly. But there is other aspects which you may not want to do, but could be equally as important, and that is the kind of whole visual side of things. What I mean by that is, do you put your freebie above the fold on the website? Some people prefer it right at the top. Some people prefer it at the bottom. Some people prefer a massive full screen pop-up. Some people prefer, little slide-in pop-ups. There's loads of ways you can do that. Another area which is massive when it comes to click-through rate is YouTube. I mean, this is you're competing with millions and millions of other people, other channels, all fighting for that, that same bit of the sort of area, the same bit of the space. So it could be something as simple as your thumbnail. That's kind of like the headline and the email title in comparing them. On YouTube, it's the thumbnail. I mean, that is, I'd say, 80% of the first stage of that. Obviously, you've got to pick your niches. If you're a brand new guy, who's going to try and get into, I don't know, the fitness niche, you may not be found for months on end. But when you start to get discovered, things like your thumbnail and that, will be important. And the great thing with platforms like YouTube, and I mean, obviously there's loads more, but one of the great things about YouTube is you get a lot of these stats, and you get a lot of this analytical data. It's there. Once you've done, I don't know, 100 videos, or give it 2 or 3 years, you can actually then go right in and have a look at all your data, and you can see, your click-through rates, what videos are performing the best, and again, it's all there for you. And going back to the website thing, it's what we always say to clients as well, and what we always do almost from like day one. Any build, straight away get analytics installed, because this can be quite sort of invaluable what you can get from that.
Yeah, you've jogged my memory there. You give me a couple of good points to talk. You said about YouTube, the same thing with Amazon Kindle. If your book's on Amazon Kindle, your book cover, your thumbnail can turn people away or attract people. And then you've got your blurb, which is probably, I know, 180, 200 words that has to be compelling enough to read, has to bring people in. So those are things that you can test regularly, really. I mean, okay, getting new book designs ain't particularly cheap all the time, but you can change those without having to change the whole book. Once people have bought the book, they can read it, then, they're not likely to get a refund on a Kindle book. But if they see your book cover and your description and it's not, sort of attractive enough, they'll just skip past it. So those are things you can. Yeah, and you talked about above the fold. I mean, I don't know if people realise this. In the old days, when you used to buy a newspaper, papers were folded in piles, and the first bit that you used to see would be like the paper title and the big headline, and that was always what people would walk past. It would grab their attention, and then they'd buy it, and then open it up, and the rest of the stuff would be below. There's a similar thing with the internet, with the website on your mobile phone, and that is the first thing that you see when you hit a website is classed as above the fold, and that is incredibly important that you get that your best stuff on there. And like you said, it's depending whether you put your book cover there. If your book cover's got all the information on there, if the title of your book is, I suppose, how to stop working and travel the world in your underpants or something like that, that's powerful enough to actually be on the above the fold because it's part of your headline. So your headline's incorporated in the book, then that's fine. But if it isn't, if it's just a box standard Britannia encyclopedia sort of thing, then you'd probably have that below the fold and have all your headline above. It's basically got to capture someone's attention and want them to scroll down. So the above the fold is as soon as a person lands on a website, what they see is basically make or break. And like you said, with analytics or anything like that, you can see how long somebody's lasting on a web page. If 90% of the people are coming to your web page and they're lasting less than 30 seconds, you know that the first thing they're seeing is basically not doing its job.
Yeah, so that's bounce rate for anyone listening. Yeah. So if your bounce rates, I mean, like I say, we are kind of at a point where we, start wrapping up. But I think that would be my kind of final thought, really, of this, and that is, if you're going to build and do anything, especially a website game, install analytics, get that on from the first day. Obviously, you're not going to see anything for the first day, but at least it's there. And then just sort of forget about it. Let it run in the background. Let it gather some data up, and then once you've got a bit of data, you can go back in, and that's when you can really start to work stuff out. You can see what people do. You can see what page they come in at. You can see what they do, where they click through, what page they leave at. And then you can start to think, well, why are they doing that? Is it because it's ranking well? Good. If it is, you can find out whatever your keywords are ranking and doing their job. If not, perhaps you want to tweak a few things. That's when you can start doing them. With the data, you can start to make changes. I think that would probably be my kind of closing thoughts on it, really. Anything final to add?
Yeah, there's one thing that I want to share with you, something I think sort of is a good example of what happens if you don't try and test things. There's one of Europe's top copywriters, a guy called Christian Godefroy, I think. I can't remember, I don't know if I pronounced that properly. For the first 5 years of his career, when he wrote sales letters, he didn't do what they call the postscripts, the PS. Postscript is something that when people used to write a letter, they would sign the name and then think, I need to write, I just remembered, so they put PS at the bottom of the sheet. Now that it's a big thing in copywriting, whether it be a sales letter, whether it's an email. And this Christian Godefroy, he spent the first 5 years writing sales letters, didn't do any PSs or any postscripts at the bottom. Once he started testing them, then he realized he started to get a 30% increase in sales. Yeah. So for 5 years, he'd been missing out on a 30% increase in sales because he didn't test them. And I've just recently read as well that it is. I mean, I use them in emails, but it's important to use them in emails as well. So this is for people who are doing sales letters or email marketing, but it's definitely worth putting like a PS underneath your signature at the end of an email or underneath the sales letter. I think they say 3, no more. I think that's been tested, but again, that's something for you to test. But 5 years he missed out on 30% increases in sales because he didn't test that.
Wow. So there you go. So I think we'll wrap up.
Yep.
Good chat. A little bit about testing and the importance of it. Any niche, any kind of online, whatever it is you're doing, I almost guarantee that there will be some kind of testing element involved, and you should definitely explore it. So
Definitely.
thanks very much for listening. I've been John Banks over at SideInCommand.com.
Yep. Thank you. I'm Andy Lehman from freedomskillsacademy.com. And yeah, we'll meet you again in next week's podcast.
Thanks very much.